Hello students, hope you are doing fine. The topic that we are going to discuss today is structuralism. Although we already discussed some of its points in our previous lectures, but again we will try to discuss it in detail, a comprehensive study of structuralism. Structuralism, a critical theory that we discussed, it emerged in 1960s, 50s, primarily in Europe specifically. It revolutionized the way scholars approach literature, shifting focus from authors' attentions to the underlying structures that shape meaning. When we also discussed formalism and new criticism in our previous lecture, so you guys somehow have some idea about it. So, if we talk about the key principles of structuralism, structuralism view language as a complex rule-governed system, emphasizing the interconnectedness of linguistic elements. Uh, Structuralists distinguish between deep structures like underlying patterns, universal themes, and service structures that textual manifestations, you can say. And structuralists analyze myths and narratives as reflection of societal structures and cultural norms. As you can see, it is discussed in the uh, slide that the idea that things cannot be understood in isolation, they have to be seen in the context of the larger structures they are part of. The linguistic sign is composed of these two elements that is in front of you guys, the signifier and signified. The signifier that we discussed in the class in detail as well are written or spoken mark. We also discussed some of the examples of apple, a tree, a pen. We discussed these examples in our class. The signifier are written or spoken mark, and signified, which you can say a concept. A signifier and signifier, these inspired by Ferdinand's semiotic structuralists, examine how signs mean words and images, and signifiers, concepts and meanings, they interact in the structure. The examples are in front of you. We discussed these examples. So, what exactly did the theorists say about linguistic structures, which the structuralists later found so interesting? The relationality, the consecutiveness, the arbitrariness, that how the meanings given to words are purely arbitrary. And if we talk about deep structure versus surface structure, structuralists distinguish between deep structures and surface structures, and structuralists identify binary oppositions, for example, good, evil, nature, culture, as fundamental organizing principles, the binary oppositions. And as we discussed, the signifier and signified as well. So, some of the influential thinkers like Ferdinand, a Swiss linguist, developed semiotics laying groundwork for structuralism. Then its literary applications, if we talk about the narrative analysis, examining stories, structures, character relationships, and plot patterns. And mythological criticism, it includes uncovering underlying myths and cultural narratives. And if we talk about the semiotic analysis of a text, then it decodes the symbols, signs, and meanings, and also reveals societal structure, power dynamics, and ideological underpinnings. And the rationality, the meanings of words are relational, that is, signs just gain their meaning from their relationship with other signs. The concept of signifier and signified. No word can be defined in isolation from other words, like suppose whole, shed, hut, those mention palace. In a language, there are only differences without fixed terms. These are the examples. It's an interesting picture in front of you how media create public opinion. Like you can see, everyone is holding a gun or a rocket launcher, you can say, but the terminology that are used for them to define them, like in Afghanistan they are called terrorists, in Syria rebels, in Iraq again terrorists, and in Libya they are freedom fighters. The public opinion that is actually created by the media. So the theorist thinks they stress the way language is arbitrary, relational, and constitutive, and this way of thinking about language greatly influenced the structuralists because it gave them a model of a system which is self-contained, in which individual items relate to other items and thus create larger structures. Uh, Another important concept. Lang and Parole, we have discussed this also. Language as a system or structure, novel as a genre, as a body of literary practice, that is Lang and Parole, any given utterance in that language. The novel Middlemarch, you can take an example. So, these critics do actually, they analyze mainly prose narratives relating the text to some larger containing structure, such as the conventions of a particular literary genre, a network of intertextual connections, a projected model of an underlying universal narrative, or a notion of narrative as a complex of recurrent patterns of motifs. Now, what they actually look for, you can see two different columns in front of you. Try to see the factors they are looking. The factors that are they are looking actually are parallels, echoes, reflections, and repetitions, contrasts, patterns. These things they look for. But what they actually expect to find, what they actually want to find is that the plot, the structure of the text or a novel, the character and their motives, the situation and the circumstance and language and imagery that is mentioned and that is shown in the text or a particular novel. Analysis of a particular text in the framework of a particular genre, or analysis of a particular text as a whole in itself. In front of you, there is an example of a drama, Oedipus the King, that you guys have read already. The certain elements of tragedy since ancient times, that identity crisis, who am I, five stages of crisis, and the third, the blindness in Oedipus. So, Romeo and Juliet symmetry in the scenes. You can see, maybe it will be a little difficult for you to analyze. You can see. So, if we talk about as a conclusion or in the last, we can say that structuralism revolutionized literary theory, offering a systematic approach to understanding texts by examining underlying structures. Try to understand that structuralism actually revolutionized this theory, offering a systematic approach so that we can understand the text in a very systematic and in an organized way. And if we examine the underlying structures of the language of the text, the scholars, the later theorists, they uncover deeper meanings and cultural norms and societal dynamics. Like, just by reading the text, just by understanding the novel, we will be able to understand the underlying structures of that particular language. And when we will understand the theories, the terms like Lang and Parole, the signifier, the binary oppositions and the parole, so by examining and focusing on these terms, we will be able to understand the underlying structures. Scholars uncover deeper meanings and cultural norms, and of course the societal dynamics with the help of that novel. So criticism exists. Structuralism influence literary theory and cultural analysis remain profound, although there are other theories as well. But in if we talk about this, so criticism exists only because structuralism influence on literary theory and cultural analysis, and it remains profound. And if we talk about some of the other key principles about it, about structuralism, so it actually examines the interconnectedness of elements within a system, and it prioritizes the study of underlying structures over the individual action. Instead of reading or studying the structure of individual action, it prioritizes the study of underlying structures. Then we talk about binary opposition, we talk about signs and signifiers, we talk about deep structure versus surface structure. And because of this structuralism, there the influence of structuralism have introduced us some new theories, and or you can say the legacy of structuralism becomes the post-structuralism that we will discuss in our next lecture, that challenges structuralism's rigidness, emphasizing fragmentation and fluidity. Then deconstruction questions binary opposition and hierarchical structures. New historicism, these are all other theories that we will discuss later after structuralism, which you can call the legacy of structuralism. It integrates historical context, then cultural studies. It examines power dynamics, identity, and representation. So, real world implications on structuralism, understanding cultural norms, informing policies, education, and social change, revealing inequalities, oppression, and social justice, and improve communication, enhance language teaching, translation, and intercultural dialogue. So, in the end, we will conclude our topic by saying that structuralism, the theory, actually examines underlying structures, and it offers a systematic approach to understanding different texts. Thank you, guys.